Hey there, Silver Recaps here. Watch out. The movie begins with two girls, Melinda and Jules, who are returning from their vacation in Mexico. At the airport, they run into Seth and Matt, two guys who are also on the same flight. After chatting for a bit, all of them head outside to find a taxi. Because of the heavy rain, they struggle to get a cab at first. But after waiting a while, a shuttle pulls up. They all climb in, ready to head home. Right away, we sense something odd about the shuttle driver. His behavior isn't normal. It seems like he specifically wanted to pick up the girls. And from here begins a terrifying journey, filled with dark secrets waiting to unfold. Why does the driver seem so intent on taking only the girls? Will the shuttle actually get them home? We'll get the answers to those questions as the story continues. Inside the shuttle, Seth and Jules start chatting and getting along. Meanwhile, Matt and Melinda also begin talking. They're joined by another passenger named Andy, who was already sitting in the shuttle before they boarded. The shuttle driver slowly begins driving them farther and farther away from the city, but the group doesn't really notice at first, distracted by their conversations. After some time, Jules asks the driver why he's not taking the regular route. He replies that there's construction on that road, so he's taking a detour. The explanation seems a little strange to them, but no one says anything. As they continue, Jules tells Matt that she knows sign language. She uses it to communicate with kids who can't hear. After driving a bit more, the shuttle suddenly stops in a dark, isolated area. The driver tells them that one of the back tires is flat. Matt offers to help and goes outside with the driver to change it. Moments later, the group hears Matt screaming in pain. They all rush outside and are horrified to see Matt's fingers on the ground, severed, with blood pouring from his hand. Turns out, while Matt was changing the tire, the shuttle slipped and fell on his hand. Seeing his condition, Melinda quickly wraps her scarf around his hand to stop the bleeding and urges the driver to take them to a hospital. But soon they realize the driver is still heading away from the city, not toward any hospital. They all start yelling at him. Suddenly, the shuttle stops again. This time, the driver gets out, pulls a gun, and points it at them. Frightened, they all return to their seats. He takes everyone's phones and orders them to stay quiet. Then, he starts driving again. Now completely terrified, the group is desperate to get out and go home. But this nightmare is only just beginning. They start talking among themselves and assume the driver must be doing this for money. Meanwhile, Andy, the man who was already in the shuttle before them, seems more scared than anyone else. He tells them to just do whatever the driver says. But Melinda and Jules begin to form a plan. Seth, however, tells them not to do anything. He's afraid that if they act out, the driver might kill them. In the midst of all this, Jules accidentally lights a candle and tosses it to the back of the shuttle. The driver sees this, slams the brakes, and stops the shuttle. He steps out to extinguish the candle. Then, returning inside, he pulls out a knife and slices Seth's nose. Seeing Seth's nose get slashed, everyone is horrified. Their breathing quickens with fear. The driver warns them not to try anything else. As the story moves forward, we see Jules at an ATM withdrawing cash. The driver had given her multiple cards and pins, and she's pulling out money one transaction at a time. While doing so, Jules gets an idea. She takes some newspapers and receipts lying around, tosses them into a trash bin, and sets them on fire, hoping the fire alarm will go off and someone will come to help. But after a long wait, the alarm never sounds. Just then, the driver notices smoke coming from the ATM area and rushes over, but Jules quickly locks the ATM booth from the inside. At the same time, Melinda sees the perfect chance and runs from the shuttle. Meanwhile, inside the ATM booth, the smoke is getting worse. Jules starts struggling to breathe, but the driver refuses to let her out. He calls out to Melinda, threatening her to come back. Seeing Jules suffocating inside, Melinda freezes. She can't run away. Eventually, they all end up back in the shuttle. A while later, the driver gives Melinda a list, some cash, and a 10-minute time limit. He warns her, "If you try to talk to anyone or bring back anything extra, I'll kill every one of you and disappear." Then, he drops her off outside a supermarket. As soon as Melinda enters, she begins racing through the aisles, grabbing everything from the list. Meanwhile, back in the shuttle, the driver gives Seth and Andy some chains and tells them to put them around their necks. Then he leads them out of the shuttle and orders everyone to hand over all forms of identification from their bags. At this point, even Seth realizes they have no choice left but to escape. He takes a knife and cuts the chain around his neck, then makes a run for it, but there's nowhere to run. As soon as the driver sees Seth trying to escape, he drives the shuttle straight into him, killing Seth on the spot. Andy, frozen in fear, doesn't move. He simply gets back into the shuttle with the driver. Meanwhile, inside the supermarket, Melinda writes a letter in her own blood. and secretly hands it to the cashier before walking out. As she steps outside and sees Seth's lifeless body, her world shatters. Until now, they all believe the driver was only after money and would let them go eventually. But with Seth dead, it's terrifyingly clear the driver has no intention of ever letting them go. After everything, they're all forced to sit back in the shuttle once again. The driver begins driving, but Melinda, using a knife she secretly took from the supermarket, manages to free herself and the others from their seats. They overpower the shuttle driver and take control of the vehicle. Melinda begins to drive the shuttle back, but suddenly, someone points a gun at her. It's Andy, the same man who had been sitting quietly in the shuttle since the beginning. We now see what happened earlier. While Melinda was driving and Matt had the driver restrained, Andy had suddenly pulled a knife and slit Matt's throat, then grabbed Jules. Now, only Melinda and Jules are left in the shuttle, and there seems to be no hope of escape. Moments later, Andy begins harassing Jules. Seeing this, even the shuttle driver tells him to stop. Andy has several tattoos on his chest, which he starts showing to Melinda and Jules. After a short while, the shuttle stops on a bridge. There, Andy and the shuttle driver work together to dump Matt's body and the group's belongings into the water. While the two men are busy dumping the evidence, Melinda and Jules make a promise to each other. If either of them gets a chance to escape, they'll take it, no matter what. Soon, the shuttle starts moving again. Jules notices a knife on the floor. Using it, she and Melinda manage to free themselves. They grab a metal rod and violently attack Andy, striking him in the head until he dies. The driver, shocked, slams on the brakes and rushes to the back. But in that moment, Melinda jumps into the driver's seat and starts the shuttle. As the driver tries to wrestle control from her, the shuttle crashes into a nearby wall. Both Melinda and the driver are knocked unconscious. Jules takes this chance, escapes from the shuttle, and runs into the street to get help. A car stops, and a young man gets out. Seeing Jules in distress, he helps her into his car and calls the police. But while he's on the phone, the shuttle suddenly comes barreling toward them and crashes into the car. When Melinda regains consciousness, the shuttle is moving again, and both she and Jules are tied back to their seats. A while later, the shuttle pulls into an underground facility. There, the driver asks them if they have any tattoos on their bodies. At first, they don't respond, but eventually, Jules reveals she has a tattoo in a private area. The driver takes her into a separate room. Soon after, Melinda hears Jules screaming in agony. When the driver returns, he unties Melinda. She immediately rushes to find Jules, only to discover that the driver has burned off her tattoo. The two sit quietly in that room, trying to process everything. Jules, broken and vulnerable, confesses to Melinda that she had always been jealous of her, and maybe that's why she ended up in this nightmare. She also reveals that Melinda's fiancé had once slept with her because of that jealousy. To her surprise, Melinda calmly replies, "I know." Jules is stunned. She had no idea Melinda already knew. Melinda tells her, "You're my oldest and dearest friend. I wasn't going to let a guy ruin our friendship." She even says she ended her engagement because of it. Hearing all this, Jules breaks down in tears and hugs Melinda tightly. After a while, the shuttle driver enters the room and hands them some clothes to wear. Then he steps into another room, where he notices an ID card lying on the floor. As he picks it up and opens a drawer to place it inside, we see something chilling. The drawer is full of ID cards from various different people. It becomes clear that this man has done this before. Once Melinda and Jules finish changing, they step outside, and the driver orders them to stand nude in front of a camera. Then, he hands them white high heels and turns on the lights around the camera. Just then, another man enters the room. The driver instructs them to take a walk, like they're on display. It becomes horrifyingly obvious that he's showing them off like objects for sale. At this point, Melinda and Jules realize the full truth. They've been brought here to be sold. They're both completely terrified. Meanwhile, the driver goes through their bags and finds some medication, something for an infection. He immediately rushes back to confront them, asking what the medicine is for. Jules tells him it's for a yeast infection, that she's the one using it. After hearing this, he ties up Melinda again and takes Jules with him. We now see the driver placing Jules back into the shuttle and walking away. A little while later, Jules begins to struggle to breathe. She looks around and realizes the shuttle is sealed shut from all sides, and there's a gas pipe leaking inside. Panicked, she starts yelling for Melinda. Melinda hears her and desperately wants to help, but she's locked inside a room and can't get out. Within minutes, Jules suffocates to death from the gas. Shocked and devastated, Melinda breaks the mirror in her room and picks up a sharp shard of glass. When the driver enters, she holds the glass up to her face and warns him to stay back. Melinda has figured out the one thing protecting her. The driver needs the girls to be in perfect condition in order to sell them. That's why he never harmed them before. Realizing this, the driver drops his gun and slowly steps back. Melinda makes a run for it, but the door is locked. She tries to get the keys from the driver, and a violent struggle breaks out between them. In the end, Melinda grabs the gun and shoots the driver in the head. She then unlocks the door with the keys, gets in the shuttle, and prepares to drive away. But just as she's about to escape, the shuttle driver, somehow still alive, appears out of nowhere. He drags her out and locks her inside a large storage box nearby. We see the box Melinda was locked in. There are small holes on top, allowing a bit of air to pass through. By morning, the box is loaded alongside other shipping goods. It's placed with a bundle of cash and transported like cargo. As the box is being moved, Melinda screams for help from inside. But the man handling it notices the money, ignores her cries, and loads the box onto the ship. Inside, Melinda sees all the groceries she had picked up from the supermarket still with her. She also finds a photo, a horrifying image of several girls beaten and stripped, standing in a line. Her eyes shift to their feet. They're all wearing the same white high heels that she and Jules were forced to wear. That's when the terrifying truth hits her. All of this was part of a massive trafficking ring, a dark underground operation where girls were kidnapped and sold to foreign countries. Melinda had become one of their victims, and in the end, she was unable to escape these monsters.